Are you interested in a strong, long-lasting raised bed that will hold up to the weather much better than the other beds that we typically build in our vegetable gardens? Well, then this might be your answer. So join me as I show you how I made this sturdy raised bed. Hi, I'm GardenerScott. Today, using these 4x4s, I'll be constructing a couple 18-inch high raised beds. Now, because these beds will be occupying a pretty important spot in my garden, I want them to be relatively permanent. So I'm using more substantial lumber than I would be using in my vegetable bed. And I've already demonstrated how I build some of those simpler raised beds just using 2x8s or 2x12s. But with a 4x4, you can expect it to last a lot longer. It'll be much sturdier, and that's what I'm looking for in these two beds. These beds will be about 3 feet wide and about 10 feet long. And 4x4s do cost more than a 2x8. The total cost of this bed is almost 3 times the cost of the cheaper version of those vegetable garden beds that I make. But I can expect that it'll probably last at least 3 times longer because this bigger, thicker wood is not going to rot or break down as quickly as that cheaper wood will. To make it easier, I've already cut the pieces. To make this bed extra strong, I'll be overlapping the corners. So I'll have one course with a long piece overlapping, and then the next course will overlap that joint. It's important to recognize that even though this is called a 4x4, it's actually only 3.5 inches across. So these smaller inserts need to be 7 inches shorter than these long pieces to allow for 3.5 inches on this side and 3.5 inches on the other side. And I'll be showing that as I construct the bed. So, because of the necessary cuts and a little more intricate design, this is a little more difficult project than the basic garden beds where you just screw the corners together. But with some basic skills, you should be able to turn out a bed like this in just a few hours. Take the time to get this first layer right, because any mistakes or anything that's wrong with this layer will just be multiplied as you make the bed taller. I want this to be a level bed. So the very first thing I did after laying out the position was to level the ground. Then I placed each board, and using a level, I made sure that this foundation was exactly the way I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be square, so I actually used a square on the corners as I placed them in position. And then I used my tape measure from opposite corner to opposite corner to make sure that the entire box was square. After those steps were complete, the bed is ready to put together. Using 3-inch screws, I just toe-nailed in from one side board to one end board to hold the pieces together. And when all those steps are done, I'm left with the foundation for the rest of the bed. The rest of the layers should go pretty quickly because I spent a lot of time on this first foundational level. Now I place a shorter long piece and a longer end, and overlapping the joint, I put them in position. This will strengthen this corner dramatically. And then just as before, I'll toenail in a 3-inch screw. With all the 4 pieces of this level now screwed together, I want to attach this second layer to the first layer, and I'll do that with 6-inch pole barn nails. Now I have pre-drilled a hole for where this nail will go in. That helps reduce bending when you hammer it in. I also continue to measure the width of the bed because these 4x4s aren't always perfectly straight. So I've clamped it down, drilled the hole, now it's ready to drive the nail. And I'll continue to do this on the other 3 sides so that this becomes one unit completely attached together. The 5th layer is nailed down and this bed is now complete. I wanted an 18-inch high bed, and remember, each of these 4x4s is actually 3.5 inches. So it ends up being 17.5 inches, but that's close enough for me. I wanted a second bed identical to the first bed, so I followed the exact same process. And I did take the time to ensure that they're exactly spaced apart from front to back. And then I also took a long level to make sure that the second bed is level with the first bed. And next, I'll be building an archway between the two, and then planting some perennial vining plants to cover that archway. These beds will last a long time because I expect those plants to last a long time. If you have any comments or questions, please let me know. If you'd like to see more gardening videos, well then subscribe to the GardenerScott channel if you haven't already done so. And be sure to click on the bell so you know when new videos are coming out. If you like this video, well then give me a thumbs up and share it. I'm GardenerScott. Enjoy gardening.